It says, I do not wish to impart rudeness on this rare first impression. However, there is a great deal I will know that you will not. It seems like you have come for the wrong reasons, seeking the brew. The Illithid are within the walls.
Your city is... Oh dear.
Let us not posture any longer. Let us, in fact, set up a camp. Use me rest without fear of my hostility. Can I say the same?
Of course, I think I answer for everyone. I'll look over to Keldrath, who's conveniently placed in a flanking position.
I will nod in agreement. I will, yes. There's no animosity here at the moment.
Yes, below, they may not hear us so well, but
Like
I
when
sort
you're
of turn around, just do a quick wave.
yeah, like when you're waving to them, like the Baru will speak to you, Keldrath, and say, "Your scouting construct. I apologize for its destruction."
I wave that away with as a gesture. There, it's
With
no
lightning
effect.
breath. No, okay.
Yeah, well, it's prepped. And I'll explain. As you say, it is a scout. It has no. It is what's the right word? Not a spell. A property, an innate skill I have. The hawk is only an ink blot, and I can recall it at will as long as it's.
There's like an affirmation nod type kind of body language thing going on where they just like, as long as they've imparted their intentions and past, present, future. Yeah. And Vanger, you signal down to the others. What is it you're saying?
I just sort of.
I love the idea that you say they might not be able to hear as well, even though you're psychically linked to Fleabite.
I know, but it's just like that's not his first go-to.
Yeah, it's good. I like it.
Everybody, well, they haven't chosen to impart their name yet, but they mean no harm, and I've offered to make camp with us. Perhaps we should head up this way. I sort of looking at Eltrus, thinking like, how easily can he climb this?
See, I'm just thinking that now as well. We'll deal with that in a minute. I'll just kind of a nod.
Maybe Fleabite, you know a spell that, and he does like a climbing gesture with his hands.
Also, you could just legitimately just make camp in here and move the bodies out the way.
Yeah, we could, but then bodies,
I was also going to say I can teleport, can't I? So that could work.
There is that, yeah. I love how it's just like, oh yeah, but I can teleport. Like halfway up the climb. I should have started with that.
Oh yeah, there's that too.
So I'll do back there, it's fine.
So what's the response that Vanger gets from both Eltrus and Fleabite?
I think Eltrus will just kind of give a nod and say, I'm more than happy to set up camp.
Yeah, Fleabite's probably like, just sounds good. It's been a long walk so far today, and probably I guess probably be like somewhat trepidatiously looking at the water, just like from where he came from. Just like, But looking sort of, is there more? Is that a nice place to be? You know, is that a nice cave?
I was going to say, like, Fleabite's knowledge of water so far, at least here, has been...
He's disturbed by it. Just,
looks pretty, but elephants come out of it and Dragonborn can run over it. Like, clearly not normal water. Well, he flies over there and lands.
Oh well.
That makes a decision.
Yep.
While he's doing that, then we have absolutely no food from our journey. So can I do some searching for some food, or
Yeah.
are we going to
You can-
expect the brew to?
You can try that, but like you can do that as part of your camp.
Yeah. All right. I can make some good brews.
It's like, oh, are the good
Um,
berries? Because magic.
Oh,
I still
It's 3 days.
have a wild shape, so you know what I'm going to do, right?
Is it wild shape into something like a fish when you jump off the edge?
I can't do fish.
Damn it.
I'm going to bounce down as a little kitty cat.
Nice.
Using the ancient method of going this way, so it's not as far. You know.
Yeah.
Whee.
Your cat
Yeah.
token's still at the bottom of the map, so.
I'll only be a cat briefly, but I will move the cat token just for effect.
Yeah, because why not, right?
Won't let me drag it because my thing's in the way. Ooh,
So there you go, folks.
Yeah.
It's that fast. It's a blurry piece of art.
it's now a dog cat. And yeah, I'll sort of just stand there as a cat for a second, and then be Vanger.
Yeah. I think as that's happening, and he lands, he acknowledges you, Fleabite, like a nod. Quite like a bulky kind of like metallic-y like thunk as he lands next to you.
Yeah, because he's a big boy, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like, there's probably more. Well, there's almost like a Keldrath in between his top of his head and the top of my head.
Mm-hmm. And he starts just like throwing bodies.
You know what? I'll be helpful and I'll like try and haul one a few feet further away.
Yeah.
I think
You know-
Fleabite would also just like with Mage Hand as well.
I have a +1 strength. I'm not that weak. I could move a body.
Where you
You know-
want them?
Just sort of like over by the trees where I don't have to get it too much. Like stick it over under there. Oh, someone's got their fireworks night started a few days early.
Yeah, we had that here as well. Happy with them all piled under the trees there?
Sure, it's quite a funeral pyre to get going, you know.
Mm-hmm. So yeah.
All gone quiet. Is it just
Yeah.
me?
No, we are all here.
Yeah, cool.
Cool.
So I'm going to use my unarmed movement skill to walk down the side of the mountain first of all.
Yep.
And then I'm going to take a little stroll just across the water, and I'll come and join you.
I'll also come and join.
You learned to do that in the monastery.
No, fighting with you guys. I woke up with the skill. I didn't realise.
That's very strange.
Turns out it's just like walking on ice if you just believe the water is hard enough.
I can raise the dead. No, never mind. That's a whole different thing.
Yep. Oh dear. So yeah, he set up camp. He doesn't seem to be besides like, you know, setting up camp and whatnot. He's definitely not doing too much in the way of like setting up food or anything.
Right, so in that case, I'll go searching for some food, and I'll use my chef skills to prepare a meal if I find anything.
Yeah.
So
And do you want to give Caldrath a hand, or is he?
I'll help.
You can do a wee survival check then, Caldrath. Do it with advantage because Vanguard's helping.
Advantage.
Hey! Yeah. Can pick up something. I'm not really sure what it would be. Some kind of deer-like creature, maybe something akin to that here. Maybe something slightly smaller.
A what?
Expensive meat.
Okay.
We'll go with rabbit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Maybe there's
knew
some-
the minute you said deer.
Maybe some large
What's
rabbit.
wrong with
Thank you all for the consideration.
How fresh do the Gith look?
Like considering Vanguard and your looks like they're only killed like less, maybe like a couple hours ago, if that. Yeah, they're pretty fresh. This day at least, they lived. Why you want to move them?
While moving them, there probably was a few just like discreet chomps that weren't as discreet as.
Do you want to roll stealth? Sleight of mouse. Perfect.
Fleabite's been forced to have good berries for 3 days. But this is fresh.
Hmm. Oh dear.
we?
Yeah, it's
So
something.
I can prepare enough food for a number of creatures equal to 4 plus my proficiency.
So plenty.
So plenty for everybody.
Yeah, plenty.
If anybody's down any hit dice, who eats the food and spends 1 or more hit dice, to regain hit points regains an extra 1d8 hit points. But I don't think anybody's injured at the moment, are we?
I think everything's
No, I think we're fine.
tip top.
Yep. Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And once everybody's like settled and you're kind of making, and it says your group, if you're their leader and you are the cook, what purpose do the other two serve? Are you the scout? You mentioned this earlier. It looks at you, Fleabite.
I think. I think Fleabite probably would just say, "Fleabite is Fleabite."
There's just like a look that lingers that bit longer than maybe Fleabite wants it to. And
It's
then
pretty good at the whole scouting thing. It's also very scrappy.
Another big super scratch.
yes, and it's just all he says is like yes. And then, and what purpose do you serve in this group? He looks to you, Eltris.
And Eltris would reply, saying, I am.
Get the women.
I am the flirt. No.
I'm like a Kirk, you know. It's like my.
And then you probably say something like, I am the guardian or the muscle. And he'll look pretty smug about himself.
So you say I am the guardian of the muscle.
I am the guardian or the muscle.
The guardian of the muscle sounds great though. And this is the muscle, baby.
Oh dear. There's clearly a gun show at that point, I assume as well.
100%. Show him the swans.
How sick are they?
Sick AF.
Help me, my swans are very sick.
Oh dear, so terrible. Oh well, at least the moods are lifting. So yeah, the character stares at you and says, "Are you of the mountain?"
No. I am of. Looking at the backstory here. What's that name called again?
I mean, the city you live in, or the place that you're actually from?
The place that I'm actually from
Bellinor?
is yeah, because I'm
The
assuming that's what
Elven
you
place, yeah. Elven City.
mean. Bellinor was it? Yeah.
Yeah, Bellinor.
So I'd say I'm not of the mountain. I am of the city of Bellinor.
So far from here and across the sea. Why have you travelled this far? Simply to seek out my city?
Sorry. No, I was. Oh crap! It's been so long since I was asked.
Who am I?
I don't even know anymore. It's a no. I was part of the army, and
You're a soldier.
indeed, yes, I was a soldier. But my
Whose
country
army?
was. Great question, because that wasn't the army of Bellador, was it? Like,
No.
that was
It was Torque.
Torque.
Yep, the
Ah,
city
see,
of Torque. Yep.
So yeah, I was part of the army of. I was a soldier in the army for the city of Torque.
You're not human. Why do you serve in their army?
Because my sibling was the ambassador in Torque for the city of Bellinor, and I had went with him.
There's just like a stare. Let me see. Have you all such colourful stories that have led you here?
Well, I think it's I think it depends what you mean by colourful. I was tending a largely abandoned shrine. He says that with like a slight sort of sideways tilt of the head, and a yes, I know, I know what kind of job that was. And I heard the voice of my God, and it ordered me to, well, to go out into the world and seek out a way to combat this intrusion. And so I did. He also gave me a very nice staff, but how close am I to Eltrus? Oh, right next to him.
Yeah.
I'll just pat Eltrus in the left arm. That's gone now, unfortunately.
And I think like the bird just looks at that exchange like a little puzzled, but doesn't like say anything.
Along the way, I've met many interesting individuals, and a good number of them are here. But I wouldn't see myself as a leader so much as a. I suppose I see myself first and foremost as a healer.
And you ask your god for this power.
You know, I don't think I ever really asked. It just sort of.
Would you say you were? Would you say you were chosen then?
Well, it sounds a little.
We do not follow gods in Barris. This is why I ask.
Oh no, I wasn't aware of that, but it's certainly true that I've encountered some places and peoples who don't. For the dwarves, there are many different ways to worship the one god, and that one god is often seen as the chief of a group of many. My temple always focused in the aspect of the cycle of life, death, decay, and new life, and healing is a necessary part of that. Admittedly, so is harm. It was just a natural extension of duties, but I do feel that I was called Chosen sounds a little. A bit grand. I imagine, if I fail in my duties, someone else will be asked.
Or chosen. There's just like a nod to that.
I think it's sort of he chuckles at that.
Just because you'd obviously said to him earlier, like you weren't, like you were asked, and you were like, yeah, I didn't think I was.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he looks to Fleabite and just looks you up and down and says, "How did you find yourself in the company of these companions?"
He probably thinks to himself, it's like, it's more that they found themselves in my company.
I'll have you know, I've been in session 1, Mr. Baru.
Yeah.
Can you say the same?
I think Fleabite would probably just say, Fleabite know that find solution to of those that come from beyond is of great importance. A long way of that meet chance is, and just gesture with my paw to these three.
I'm not familiar with your kind. Where do you hail from?
Beneath, but not of beneath this. And just sort of gesture around.
So not from the mountain then, or beneath it?
Probably just shake head.
Or do you mean from further?
Fleabite come from beneath, but from beneath of somewhere else.
Guys nod to that as if he's happy enough with that explanation.
Sure.
Like, yeah. It's as good as he's getting, right? He looks at you, Kildrath.
I suppose I have more links to this mountain than most, even though I'm not originally from the mountain. I was brought up in a monastery close to the base. I was returning home, and while I was returning home, the Gith attacked and destroyed the monastery. When I returned to the monastery to see what remained, I met my companions and joined their adventure. That's probably the shortest story of the group, but that is it really.
Your people, are they all of the mountain? Or are they of elsewhere?
They are of elsewhere. We come. My mother and father travelled to the mountain to study at the monastery. For the originally, again followed Melee, the god Melee, the traveller. And I'm trying to find the Dragonborn Island, and I can't remember the dragon.
It's called the
Dragon
Dragon's
Eye
Eye.
Isle.
Yep.
Yeah, the Dragon's Eye.
Yep.
We originally come from the Dragon's Eye. I myself have never been there, so the mountain is probably home, but only because I've not been to my real home.
Just nods at that. Says, Home is generally where you claim. And that's like all he says. And says, how do you intend to enter Barris? And he kind of gestures that to the whole group.
Stories of the city haven't been as detailed as we might like. So,
But they are as detailed as the Baru like.
it's held in remarkable secrecy. We tried to find out information, but those who had it weren't always was forthcoming or reliable, and there were few. We would
And-
hope. Sorry.
I think Fleabite would butt in and say, and those that have find the answer not always survive to tell.
We'd hope to case walls and find best way in once we were there. Perhaps if it isn't an affront to your city too much, we'd enlist your aid in entering. If well, truthfully, I don't pretend to know the exact nature of what goes on in the illicit process, but I can only imagine you would desire very much to see it ended. Perhaps we could be some aid.
Can you roll persuade again? You can do it with advantage.
God, a second time?
Mhm.
Right. I'm saving all my dice luck for this session, apparently.
Yeah, not bad, buddy, not bad. Okay. And then this person has rolled 3 checks since you've met them, right? One of them was a very, very good history check that they got. They got a nice 17, and they were trying to see if they knew who Lyudo was. And then they tried, since then, 2 insight rolls. A 2
Okay.
and a 3 is what they've rolled.
Wow.
Wow. So what I've learned is they know history, but they have no ability to read people.
Well, fortunately, they're dealing with a pretty honest guy. So-
Yeah, but the thing is as well, it means they've got they have no specific read on you, which means they wouldn't necessarily be overly suspicious or trusting. Does that make sense? Like, I'm not going to make them, like, they don't know they roll poorly, they just know they don't have a read.
that makes sense, yeah.
So there is that level of, like, yous are pretty open, quite frankly, as a party, which helps, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be. Hence why I'm asking you to persuade, right? Because that's the tipping point, if that makes
Sure.
sense. Because if yous are being truthful and they roll insight and they work it out, good. If not, they need something else to coax it, hence the persuade. Just to give you a bit of behind the scenes there as well. So yeah, they look around and then they say, I do not believe that yous will find welcome to pass the Baru walls. Will you simply turn back? If so, I can at least cut some of the journey from here to the walls from your return journey. You may simply head back now.
Hmm.
And it's clearly a testing phrase. You can read that easily enough that they're clearly waiting to see what you're going to do, right?
It's a long road to turn back empty-handed. Too important a mission to give up. First hurdle. Well, this is probably the 80th hurdle, but never mind.
He chuckles at that, right? There is definitely like a kind of like a deep, contained laugh to there. And he'll say, I do not deny that the help that you offer seems to be convenient, yet I am in need of help nonetheless. You imagine my reservations regarding trusting an array of strangers.
People have, well, always relied on themselves. I understand that inviting outsiders in, not something done easily. But we've all been brought here by strange forces, by chance, by voice of a god, by who knows. Perhaps I wouldn't use the word chosen for myself, but I do think that we are meant to be here, and that whether or not this particular set of individuals all made it to this spot at this time, there have been many along the way who have helped, and some have found that they had other callings on the path. Some perhaps may return someday, some unfortunately have fallen alongside, but there are forces in this world that would see it preserved, the threat they elicited. And I believe those forces have conspired to bring us together here now. But it falls to us to ensure we are stopped.
So you believe in divine coincidence?
Oh,
Yeah, right. There's a loaded question if ever.
I believe in. Oh god, there's a specific term he's used before that's not coming to me right now. Providence. I believe in providence. I believe, as much as there are clearly forces of evil at work in this world, there are forces of good. And when they show us a path, we're wise to take it.
There's like a long, kind of like deep thought look on their face. And say, we disagree about some of those points, I believe. But I do not think we are too dissimilar. Overall, he just nods at that. Doesn't allude to what he thinks he disagrees with, just simply that he does.
I mean, I can imagine from a sort of atheistic culture that the whole idea of divine providence is probably not one that is.
Hence his specific choice of
read.
like divine coincidence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He stands up quite suddenly. Maybe slightly alarming to everybody. That's maybe, you know.
Certainly, he's a big boy. Yeah.
Yeah. Then he states, "This was sufficient to put me at ease." He looks at everybody like quite deliberately, even if it's not specifically putting you guys at ease. My name is Sufim. And he does like a kind of like, you know, a nod to that. And he takes off like his like helmet, which is like, you know, all kind of almost like mechanically moves to unhook. So we've almost got that kind of scene in Predator where he's taking his mask off for the first time. He lifts it off.
Roar.
Yeah.
It's an elephant under.
Except it's an elephant, yes.
Which you do in a very different movie.
I'll probably watch that as well, to be fair.
Safine?
I'll type it in chat for you.
Safim, right?
Safim.
Savage.
Safim.
I think I'll sort of, you know, give him a nod, a sort of deep nod, an almost bow, like a very sort of reverent nod. Pleasure to meet your acquaintance, Safim.
And he acknowledges everybody, and then he sits back down, like sits his helmet like on the side of his armor, as if it's been designed to just like fit in there as well. Like, it wouldn't be wrong to say this is like as close as fantasy's going to get to like power armor, right? That is definitely the vibe you're getting here. However your fantasy brains can process that, I don't know, but you get what I'm saying. It doesn't look like fancy armor. Maybe it's reminiscent of a lot of what like Von Rune has. That's maybe the closest she's got.
Okay.
I'm thinking Fifth Element.
Yeah, no, like that's not the worst either. Aziz Light.
I'm somewhat thinking Elephant Wakanda versus
yeah.
Even the Ratvaria.
Runevaria, right? Oh dear. It was called Runestad.
Yeah.
Just looking out for those Disney lawyers. Yep. We're good. So yeah, and he sits back down. Keldrath, do you offer him food at any point, or is it just like the party you are feeding out of interest? That isn't a loaded question, by the way, that is just like what would Keldrath do naturally?
Oh, naturally, I'd be serving this out to everybody as a proper meal. Either that, or the pot would be there for everybody to ladle out for themselves as we're out here. But if we were,
if you make if you attempt to offer him food, or if you did attempt to offer him food, he would have said no until this moment, if that makes sense. So at this point, you can say, if your offer of sharing your meal is still available, I will avail myself of that.
feel free, Safim, feel free. There is enough there for everybody today.
Like his trunk goes over and takes a big like sniff at the pot, and then he like gets himself a bowl. He brings out like his own kind of bowl. It's like a kind of like almost like a kind of metal, curved piece of metal that he has that like spins round into a bowl. As I said, he got all the fancy mod cons for his own survival kit.
I think I'll collect some water and put on some tea, and I'll sort of go up, stretch my legs, and squint at the water just suspiciously, considering there've been bodies piled up near it recently, and then determining it looks
like none of their blood trails or anything has made it to there. They were all killed like far enough back from the water. Yeah. You're welcome to roll perception if you want to like have a.
You know what?
Yeah.
Since we're on a roll,
yeah,
I'll roll perception.
Now that we've said all this.
Oh no. You know what? 9. It could be much worse.
There seems to be some kind of like, I don't know, like blurry dwarf staring back at you as if they're trapped under the water. No, it's just your reflection.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. No, good. The water does look fine. As far as you can tell.
As far as I can tell. I shrug and take some into the kettle and pull it back over. It's probably quite heavy once it's like properly filled, because I figure like, oh, there are 5 of us again. How nice. I'll take my seat again and stick it sort of next to the fire.
Guys, I need to nip away for a second. There'll be 2 seconds.
What is?
Keldrath goes off to relieve himself in the trees.
I must say, well, it's not a pleasant topic, but I suppose it's probably best to be forthright. The guest, was that yourself that faced them?
Kind of like, as he's like scooping up, the meal relatively quickly as he's eating it. And he looks up, his eyes like dart up at you when you ask that, and he finishes the meal, kind of like swallows it down, clears his throat a bit, and he says, "Unfortunately, yes. I tracked them here, and when their guard was down." He doesn't like finish the sentence, he just leaves it at that.
Sort of nods. They are. They can be pretty dangerous. I can't say that they would have. I can't say that they would have received you peaceably had you had you done otherwise. Especially not. Well, as I say, it's hard to tell, but big swords, the gear. Actually, did I know enough looking at them to know for sure that those were?
Yeah, I think
And
so,
you know
yeah.
that I'm going to confuse the two types of difference of
Githyanki.
right? It's
Githyanki or the
Githyanki.
Battens. Yeah.
They look like the Githyanki, they call themselves anyway. Or rather, the other Gith called them Githyanki. I'm not quite sure if they call themselves that. I don't recall. Their languages. I've picked up a couple of words. They're
When you say that, it says
fortunately-
you have spent time amongst them, you say.
they're kin.
The Zerai.
Yes. Once again, you seem to be familiar with the terms.
Yes, the Illithid have shared much with my people. And there is definitely a tone to that statement.
See.
He just kind of stares at you as if, like, trying to read you. And then he says,
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I'm probably doing the same with him. Like, should I ask?
we see, like, on the screen the two d20s roll at each other for the insight checks, you know?
Yeah, I think I'm actually going to roll insight
Yeah,
if I
go
may.
for it, yeah. But hey,
It's 21.
tell you what, I'll even switch them to public and I'll roll for them, right? Wow, that is their best roll for insight, considering they got a 2 then a 3 last time. Yeah, and like as you both like, size each other up, like what you kind of get from that is they have like no love for the Illithid. Like they said that with like a a good bit of maybe like spite or detesting like in their voice. Yeah, almost like the knowledge imparted wasn't necessarily desired. So you get like definitely not good vibes. They're not like pro Illithid. What does he get from you on a 13?
On a 13. Oh,
Okay, but if you're not
I
actively
suppose-
trying to hide anything, like anything above a
I
10 is
mean,
reasonable. So
yeah, I'm not at all, really. I think it'd be very obvious. So a 13 would definitely get the. Obviously, this does worry Fanger. That this information seems to have come from the Illithid.
Mhm.
That is a concern, but there would also come across a sort of like genuine interest in the situation.
Mhm.
I'd probably also like. It might be a stretch to spot it at 13, but like there's genuine concern in his part.
Mhm.
He isn't just trying to see the right things to
Yeah.
get his way in. Like he is completely sincere.
Yeah, I think.
Chef Bot, roll out.
And then Zafim will say, I cannot welcome you into Barris. That is not something I am able to do. I would be exiled, or perhaps even killed, if I were to bring outsiders in. You offer help. My people require help. We would not ask for help. You see my problem?
He's nodding.
And then he finishes the bowl, and he kind of like stands up and says, perhaps this divine coincidence will help. And he walks over to the water and like cleans his bowl. Obviously he does it by scooting up water in his trunk, and blowing it
course.
back down, and then clicking it all back together and putting it in his pack. And he sits back down. He turns to Keldrath and says, "You are quite talented. I appreciate the meal." He just nods at you. And he turns back to you, Vanger, and says, "How would you get inside the city without help?"
Well, first approach, we'd try and keep our distance and get a sense of the security. If we found anywhere that would be more easily climbed, there are those of us who can do that quite ably.
You will not find climbing. And then he kind of just like, he looks around as if trying to gauge if he's actually accurately going to state that. And then he looks and says, "Yes, you will not find climbing something that will help you get into the city. These walls are protected from such things."
See. That is an interesting problem. Many cities have an underbelly. He looks to Fleabite.
I guess does Sufim. Looks over at you.
Probably just like cock head to the side. Look back.
Fleabite is very capable of finding his way through the lower reaches of the city in Evershade. That was quite a maze.
Ah, yes. The city that is almost as old as Paris. Almost.
City. Wait. Well, of course, the humans. Perhaps they're first.
Kind of nods.
A strange place.
I have not been, but I do not hear good things.
It was. There are good people there, but it is not a good place.
He kind of like chuckled at that and he said, "I believe there are good people in many corners of the world. Even if those places themselves do not kindle that goodness."
Sort of softly. So if we're seriously sort of thinking about that, because I get the feeling he's sort of trying to gauge what he's willing to give away. What
Yeah.
would be too far?
I think your 21 could probably
We
gauge
should
that
have
as
a
well,
think.
yeah.
Yeah. We should have a think as to.
You mean a player agency moment? Let's go.
Uh-huh.
Let's do the thing.
What do we want to try and get him to share? What do we think is the information that he might possibly have that we might possibly get him to part with?
So, Alexander would like to know how the Illithid got it.
So can I say that you might be able to address the elephant in the room first?
Yeah, he is the elephant in the room, yeah.
Correct.
Ah.
Which room is he in though?
Outdoors.
Correct.
So the question of how he got out, yeah.
So that would be like step one, I would say, is maybe the most obvious thing.
I am shocked that I followed your logic.
Yeah, that's good.
there.
That was good.
The room is that there is no room.
Yeah.
Yes, I see.
To be fair, we have spent a lot of time together, Cole. So
Yeah, well, fair. Okay, that makes sense.
And then likewise, Fleabite's suggestion or Alexander's suggestion being, like, how did the Illithid get in? Alexander, what do you know about the Illithid thus far?
Alexander doesn't know much other.
I mean, like from the game. I'm referring to because we're in a player agency.
Yeah. Psychic things that, when it comes to a fight, having brawn is not as important as having brain.
Okay, but I mean, like in universe, like what do you know about the Illithid? Like essentially, what does Fleabag know about them?
Yeah, Fleabag knows pretty much nothing.
Right.
Just knows that they are an enemy of the Gith.
Okay.
So
And
the whole parasitic thing
Where are they?
in Varys.
Right. That's what you've just learned from a Spheme. But where do you know they are?
From beyond.
No, no.
Little Bellinor, right?
Right? Yeah. You remember that part, Alexander?
Were they the ones with the ship?
Right. Because that's what
Okay. I'm not sure if Fleabag knows that.
You do, because it was all explained in the tent with the Zerai.
Yeah, it was explained. Fleabag knows that.
Yeah, but Alexander should know it. Okay? So,
Who is this Alexander?
exactly. Who is this Alexander? So, you should know that above Little Bellinor, there was the Great Enemy's ship. What surrounded the ship? Do you remember that?
Sky.
Specifically.
Two suns.
Imagine the two suns just orbited the Illithid ship. That would be terrifying. No. There was a massive storm.
Okay.
There was a big storm that appeared above Little Bellinor, and in the centre was a big skyship. That's all you knew until you met the Zerai, who explained that ship contains the Great Enemy. Okay. Fast forward to now.
We have an indication of storms up ahead. And we know that there's,
Yep. So it does seem like there's a unusual storm above the peak of the mountain. And now this person said, yeah, we got Illithid. There you go.
Storms coming.
Yeah, storms are coming. Makes sense? Cool. So, what would you like to achieve from this player agency moment? No, with that clarification.
We need a storm.
Yeah, a storm barbarian
Ah.
and a lightning breath monk.
It's a breath monk.
Yeah. No.
Are we happy, or is there anything else that any of us sort of thinks we should kind of try and push him a little bit on?
No.
I guess that's so following the how does he get in and out? If he was just to go home and we happened to follow him, completely unrelated. Is that our way around him getting exiled / executed?
Yeah. I suppose the best way to broach it as well is to like figure maybe it is the way that he came and went clandestine, because if it is, then obviously that strategy is good. If it's not, then that's still sort of
Yeah, was it just like running through the giant front gate like Jurassic Park, just waving to everybody like, "Yo, it's me, I'm back. Hey, Sufim," and then it goes into a whole Disney opening. Yeah, if it's that, maybe not. But obviously, if it's round the side of Helm's Deep, maybe. Oh dear. That'll definitely get us copyright struck. That tune.
I only did it for like 3 seconds. If that gets copyright struck, fuck all you. That's unlawful. Fair use. I'm just gonna say words. Legal tender.
There we go. Yep, legal tender. Defender of all things.
That's legal tender. So yes, I think I'll sort of broach that then.
Okay.
Well, I suppose there must be ways in and out of the city that aren't equally guarded. Perhaps paths that one who wished to enter and exit the city without alerting others might use. I don't know you walked out the front door or not, but many cities, whoever secured their walls, have side gates or paths.
He kind of chuckles a bit to himself and he says, Barris has no such doors in or out. Kind of like narrows his eyes when he's looking at you when he says that. If you were to find a way in to Barris, you have mentioned your desire to discover if there is a dragon egg within its walls. But you have not told me your purpose beyond this. We have shared a meal. We have shared our names. I have shared my plight. Please, share.
Okay. I'm looking around at the others, so I'll say, some thought the dragon itself may be the solution. My inclination is not to destroy life when it might be preserved.
You mentioned this. These Zerai told you of this, I assume.
They did, I believe. Now, did she mention it at all to me? Did Cynthia say anything about that to us, or was that just right? Am I getting confused?
No, like it was the Anarch of the Zerai.
Oh, I know they did in the tent meeting, but like I'm sure it came up later. But I can't remember if it was just Fleabite that got that from Cynthia.
I think a safe bet would be to assume yes, probably just Fleabite and Cynthia.
Yeah, so retcon that. I won't add anything else. It's just I would just agree. Yes, this is sort of like the Gislerai, and I might even say something like they're sort of spiritual leaders.
And their military leader as well. The Anarch leader.
Like their leaders, I suppose, would be a better way. Their leaders felt this was the way.
I mean, you do have a chest of crystals that connects you to them as a group.
I always forget that exists.
Yeah, I think like
it's always whenever I open my inventory page, I'm like, oh yeah.
Yep, it's like a box with 3 big crystals in it that you know, Ardak had mentioned that you could, if you find any more of his people, give them this. Yeah. So. Yeah, I think the most that you learned was that the Anarch, she believed that if you could train the dragon, essentially raise it to be, you know, a weapon against the Illithid, that would be your best chance of like stopping their, you know, grand exodus through worlds. And also just ideally like would stop it, and then maybe at that point if the Illithid were stopped, the Githyanki would maybe stop killing their own kind, you know, hopefully. But who can say? That was just the hopes of the fleeing peoples. Yeah. Yeah, anybody else got anything else to add to that conversation? Interest? Because this guy seems to be trying to be gauging everybody's like intentions. Pretty much straight up asking, you know, what he's going to do if he's got inside. So.
Is this the resolve goal conversation?
It seems
no,
like
it's just let's maybe take the pressure off Vanguard having to have the whole conversation. That's what it is really. There's
I think we all know that if you just let me speak, I will. So don't worry too much about that.
Yeah, there's a party, right? And you know, roleplay is part of this hobby. So Eltris, you look like you want to say something.
Oh, why'd you come to me first?
I don't know. You were missing last week, so I'm trying to give you some screen time.
Yeah, you owe us another session's worth of
What do you feel about what's been said so far, then?
How to say this in a flirty way to an elephant man? Kidding. I don't know.
There's definitely an underwear joke you can make. I'm just not going to make it for you.
An underwear joke?
Yeah.
No.
Wait, what?
Oh dear.
Honestly, I don't know.
Nothing Eltress feels about what's been said at all.
Absolutely nothing.
No one is sure what
Um,
Eltress's plan is if he got inside Barris. This mythical city he's been trying to get to.
Well, Eltress just wants a dragon as a pet, but
Okay.
not allowed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
No, honestly, I don't think so. Like, no. I feel like Vanger's had everything covered, if I'm honest. Like,
Okay, but saying Eltress agrees with Wenger is a statement,
okay.
right?
Eltress agrees with Vanger. Hear ye. Minus the hear ye part.
Okay. What about Caldrath or Fleabite? Anything else to add to the exchange?
For myself,
Mhm.
the Dragonborn, we would not wish to see the dragon return. But I will protect the dragon egg. I would not see it destroyed.
So you want that said in character, Tim? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think when you say that, Sophie will turn to you and say, if there is indeed an egg within Barris, surely it's only a matter of time before it hatches. You wish to stop this process? Would that not cause harm to the creature within the egg?
Again, the history of my people. I do not feel we worship dragons. It was try to do the history of this dragonborn in the island, and I don't know too much.
You could roll for it now if you want. We'll find out what you do know. Right? Do you want to do a wee history roll?
It should be there. Hold on, I've got advantage on. I'll turn it off.
No worries.
Oof, nothing.
It is also the history of your people. I don't mind if you actually had advantage on there. So, like, you just kind of rolled before I got to articulate myself, but you can roll again.
This is going to go backwards.
I mean, it can't get worse than a 7, right? So, it'll be
doesn't.
the 7 or the 17 we're going with, right? Because of those. So the 17. Yeah, like, I think, as far as you know, and again, this can be stuff you've read in the monastery. It could have been stuff like your travelers or parents or other dragonborn have said over time. Like, I don't imagine you just wouldn't know anything about your people.
No, exactly.
Yeah,
So,
I think ultimately you know that it's said that dragons and the dragonborn, all dragon blood originated in the dragon's eye. That is what most dragonkin believe, right? Whether or not it's true doesn't matter. It seems like dragons are very old. Actual dragons. Dragonborn came later than dragons. Yeah, I think the Genasi, they obviously were like the ancients of the world. It's unknown who came first, the Genasi or the dragons, right? Nobody knows that. Mostly because there aren't really any old Genasi left, and there are no dragons left. So, I guess if somebody knows that, like Von Rune might have been the only person with a chance at learning that info, and he's obviously made sure to snip that. So, beyond that, the dragons created the Dragonborn as a way to communicate with all the races that were appearing in the world. Rather than
my messenger.
rather than being giant fire lizards, that are quite scary and intimidating.
Why not just shapeshift Lamouth?
Maybe they can.
Maybe they can't. Well, that's embarrassing.
Yeah. So
No, that did occur to me.
Yeah.
Joke or not?
Yeah, the shapeshifting for dragons is quite like an elite ability. It's a very, very elite ability. It's just obviously the dragons mean you have experienced in roleplay are usually those elite people. But yeah, so it's assumed that the Dragonborn were created as like an intermediary between the dragons and the people of the world. And then over time, things just get lost to history. So I guess let you know that, but you're welcome to ask me a question if you had anything specific you wanted to know.
No, well, again, my history with D&D comes from D&D, where the Dragonborn were created by the Dark Goddess from good dragon eggs. So that's why I'm reluctant to hear my two histories are totally different from what you're saying. So
yeah, it's because I'm not using D&D's world at all. Just the rules.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
It's not too dissimilar, though, right?
Yeah, no,
Dragons made,
Ow!
and they were
I
seen as.
accidentally poked myself in the eye.
I hope you're okay. And yeah,
The dragon eye.
you should. Yeah, I was gonna say. Yep, the dragon's eye. Yep. So yeah, like essentially, like the dragons were deified to some people. Big scary fire sky lizards, and yeah, it's not that different from D&D's lore, I suppose, when you think of it that way. But that is what you know, at least.
So I'll explain then. Basically, the Dragonborn were created as a type of shield between the dragons and the other races. We were there to.
I'd say more of a bridge than a shield, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah,
like
bridge.
yeah,
Bridge. Yeah.
Shield implies like lots of people hated them, like scared of them, not necessarily hatred to them, if that makes sense. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah. So yes, I will explain that to him and saying that we would probably accept the dragon coming back and back to our homeland, but we are also well aware of the destruction that can be wrought by them as well. And it's, as an uninitiated into the dragon ways, I fear that the destruction they could cause, unchallenged, unrestrained, would cause more harm than good. However, if we turn it against a greater enemy, as you're suggesting we face, maybe it could be for the better. But I am learning.
His nods. And Sufim says, there is much I think we can help each other with. But I have stated that I cannot gain you entry to Barris. I do not know you, and if I were to allow you in, my life would be forfeit. My life as a Baru would end. I do not wish to go the way of this Lauda, nor would I wish my life to come to an end prematurely. You understand this position? He just nods, like that wasn't really a question. He's kind of just telling you that you understand. These aren't cool enough for him to die for you yet, essentially.
Sufim, may I ask, how do you gain access and leave?
Kind of like looks at you, and he says, sharing the secrets of Barris would be punishable, just as allowing you entry. You see the difficult position I find myself in, even talking with you. You are all outsiders. Even kinship with the mountain is not enough. We have learned to close ourselves off from this world. It is unfortunate these outsiders to even the world itself have found their way within the walls of Barris. And he kind of looks back up to like where the storm would be, right? Towards the peak. It's not far away at all. And then kind of like exhales again, a bit of a trunk noise. And then and there's like maybe a bit of melancholy to that like act of him like looking over where the storm is and then looking back at you guys, and then it says, "You have been very careful not to answer my question directly as a group. How would I know that if your presence within Barris would not disrupt our way of life? How do I know you are here to help my people? It is a simple and convenient lie to allow you entry."
Can I take a player moment?
Mhm.
See the gith that we've got lying over there in a pile?
Yeah.
Can they access Barris?
They're dead, so no, is my
No,
answer.
not before being dead.
You don't know, right? Like, how would you be able to learn that answer? Like, tell me how you could learn that answer, and I'll let you know if I can give you the answer.
From where I'm sitting at the moment, I'm going to ask directly to Safim before we go into this next the answer this question again. Because if they've got something on them that allows them in and out of Barris, maybe searching their bodies would be.
But yeah, I don't think there's any reason to think they do, though.
And
Okay.
we know that they do have some amount of probably magic for short range teleportation in a way, but so even if that was something that they were using, it's not something that we would be able to recover from them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like
okay.
that's kind of innate magic. Yeah. But yeah, it's a good enough question, alright. So I think like what we can answer to that is you know they can teleport short distances because you've seen it. They are quite mobile that way. They're capable warriors, right? They're relatively well organized, despite your inability to see the organization. Just their ability to like hold the locations around the world that they have is evidence of that. Obviously, you don't necessarily need to know much about that being on the mountain yourself, Kildrath, but from what you've witnessed since. Beyond that, yeah, I don't think you could tell if they'd be able to get in or out. They aren't in, and this person has said that they've killed them because they like tracked them. So, yeah, I don't know if you could even gauge from that if you tracked them from the city or not. The only thing I would say is that like both him and Vanger have stated that the Gith are no friends to the Illithid, and if the Illithid are in the city, it'd be weird for the Gith to be in the city. Right?
Yeah, okay. Right.
If that makes
Okay.
sense, because the Gith and the
Yeah.
Illithid are not friendos.
Okay, as far as because he's asked like how we know we can trust him.
He's basically saying, if you've got inside, what would you actually do? Because you've only mentioned that you like the dragon egg. That's it. Like, that doesn't tell him anything. So it's like, well, are you going to like set shops on fire? Are you going to kill my people? Are you going to like eat all our pies? Like, do you see what I mean? Like, you've given him nothing to reassure him other than
Yeah.
dragons are maybe cool, and that's it. And he hasn't even confirmed if there even is a dragon egg.
He's conspicuously not confirmed it though.
Yes.
Or not disconfirmed rather. I think then I understand your reluctance. I don't know what we can do to show that we mean only to help. Sorry. Perhaps there's some way we could prove our intention. Are good.
How do you intend this?
God, I really don't know. How would
Yeah,
I?
like I have zero input on that either. I'm like, But I think it's safe to gauge, right? This guy wants help for his people. That is very obvious. He doesn't like the idea that the Illithid are in his city. You can only imagine what that probably means.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's try this. Safim, you obviously feel Barris has been invaded, infected by the illicit. We've been told that the only way to save our world, and I will assume Barris is part of this world, even though your secrecy may lead us to think otherwise. If releasing the egg to us, to our care, would help, is that not something you could bring to us rather than us coming into the city and disturbing it and disturbing your world?
Kind of like narrows his eyes. Yeah. Do you want to roll persuasion for me as well, Kildrath?
Mm-hmm. Persuasion on. Another one that's not very good. No advantage on this.
Not bad though, not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially for a flat roll. So
Yeah.
yeah, he kind of looks you up and down, looks like over everybody, and he says, "You claim to have heard tales that this dragon would be the enemy of, it seems, our enemy, and indeed the Gith's enemy. This is a convenience, my ears. However, convenience does not mean falsehood. I cannot bring you what you ask. But if it is true that it would be an ally, then would it not be best for it to be brought to Hatch?"
A further question. The illicit. You have not confirmed the existence of the egg. Whether you know or not is neither here nor there. But if the illicit do fear the egg, are they searching for it?
Okay, like takes a deep breath. Like you can tell this guy is like tense, right? Like it's not like everybody here can see this guy is like tense. Not quite sweat beads on his forehead, but just in the sense of he is weighing up with every word whether or not he's going to be put against a wall and shot. So, you know, that's maybe something you can read into based on what he's told you. Hence why his like slow, deliberate conversation. He's choosing his words carefully for like, you know, deniability later. And he says, "I have no doubt that if the Illithid detected a threat to their existence within Barris, that may offer an answer as to why they have taken an interest in my people. You can see why I am even entertaining this meeting. I could simply have let you pass by none the wiser. I have taken risks here."
Perhaps we could take a risk.
Kind of looks to you.
Prove.
There's a look in his face that clearly says, "Please."
Regardless of how effective a dragon may be, I have to believe that might of dragons alone would certainly be a helpful thing to have, regardless of how correct the Githzerai leaders were. Surely to rear a dragon will take time we perhaps do not normally have, something will need to be done to bring it not only to hatch, but maturity faster than would be natural. In the meantime,
He puts his hand up and he says, "How familiar with the sciences are you?"
I look at him.
Yeah, it's maybe not like a super common word, but it is a word that you're likely to have heard, right? Because you are a man of sciences, as it were.
Well, yeah, of a sort. I've read a few tomes in natural philosophy.
He gives you a look when you say that, and then says, "In a darker age," and he like pokes at the fire. He says, "Many thought that for it to give out its energy, its heat, its light, it had to be infused with such to contain it." And he picks up like a log that's maybe like a bit of wood that's sitting next to the fire, and he holds it up. "This does not contain heat or light." And then he throws it in the fire. "But it can perpetuate this." He kind of like gives you a look over the fire as if, are you following his like, super basic science lesson? And he said, "This creature perhaps just needs the energy to bring it to hatch."
I think
Go
this
for
is probably a bad idea, but strangely, Fleabite is probably one of the most familiar with sort of quote-unquote science.
Yeah.
Like,
yep.
Partially, I was thinking just association with Tink, but also just skeeviness.
No, like legit, Tink was the reason I thought you were saying this. That's why I laughed, because of how detrimental Tink was.
that was my first thought, but also just his sort of description of like fire and letting things, things needing to have that start.
Mm-hmm.
That is going to take Fleabite's mind back to darker times, and will silent image a small hand-sized, again, sort of, I guess, similar to what he did before in the Stone Giant village, of a warp bomb nuke that just needs a little bit of energy to then just devastate an entire area. And look up at the Spheme, and sort of you take care that when starting something, it does not run away lead beyond what can be controlled or directed.
He looks at the image that you're projecting. Your silent movie of Bikini Atoll, and yep.
But very green.
Yep. And then stares at it, and then says, "I did not take you for a creature of science. That was my mistake." And he just kind of nods at himself, and then scratches at his trunk, and then says, "If by which you mean a dragon poses a threat, I cannot deny that this is true. We were once the most feared creature in this world." And he kind of shakes his head and he goes, "I have nothing to offer in ways to comfort you. Merely that this world is being taken piece by piece. He looks back up towards the storm and then back towards you guys. I do not wish it to be taken entirely. What that's worth to you, I do not know. But it is worth a lot to me.
That, I believe, is what brings us to this mountain.
And he looks at you and nods and goes, divine coincidence.
We must make sure they do not find the egg. Perhaps. Perhaps we can whatever fate your people have found under the Luthida, no, it cannot be a pleasant one. Perhaps we can show their intentions are good. Finding a way to aid you. Meantime, while we prepare, we all say there will not be an instantaneous solution. Whatever we are able to do will take time, so finding the dragon egg is only a small part of it. And in the meantime, sort of looks up in the direction that he looked up previously. Storm lingers. Perhaps there is something, though. Let us think on what we know of them. Parasites move from dimension to dimension. Attack the mind somehow. They must have some vulnerability, something we can do to, at the very least, buy time against them.
They are of flesh, not merely the mind. Flesh can be destroyed.
They can die like anyone else can. That's encouraging.
My fear was that they can jump completely into another's mind. I fear it is why my people have not made a move against them.
It's horrifying.
He takes another big deep breath in through his trunk, and then he says, "We may be isolationist in nature, but they sought us out. They breached our walls. They made contact with us. They are what we would deem technologically capable. No offense." He just says that vaguely to the group. But that is hard to shut yourself off from. We have not experienced an enemy that attacks the mind with such precision before. This is new to this world. Truly alien to this world. Do you, as a group, have any skill at concealment of the form, physical, or your minds?
While this is going on, Keldrath is going to think to flea bite.
Yeah.
All four of us climbing into his sack and handed his sack off to
Sufim? Yeah.
to Sufim to try and get into Barris. He found a sack outside and brought it in.
Don't open that! Rat jumps out.
Yeah, I suspect he might not be willing to do that.
But what is the group answer that then, right? Because he's kind of asked, can you conceal like your
I mean,
physical or mental
I
form?
think I don't know as far as Keldrath goes, but I think concealing the mind. Well, we've got all sorts of mind tricks from our resident rat boy. We have
Sweats and
one-
Fleabite.
actually we've got one shapeshifter and one sort of shapeshifter. Our guardian friend here, Eltris.
Mm.
I think we could kind of all have something to offer.
My stealth
but
skill's quite high, but
I'm obviously. I mean, Vanguard only after for himself, so well, I for one, I can't do it too frequently, but I can hold it for a reasonable amount of time. As you may have noticed in my way down, I'm able to assume the form of lesser beasts, some of reasonable size, but a number of them creatures such as might easily go overlooked in a city.
You took the form of Baka before. This is how you declined. What?
Yes, the common tongue they're usually cat.
Cat.
They're common to many cities and extremely mobile, so I find that it's one of the most useful forms a person can take on. It allows you to travel undetected and I'm not quite sure how to do this. Jauntily, you know, they're bouncy. They can go up and down walls very nicely.
These Paka cats are within the walls. If you can hold this form, you would go unnoticed.
I could manage perhaps a couple of hours before I would need to rest, and it takes a while to fully recharge.
He like nods to himself and says, perhaps it will be enough if your mind goes undetected.
the theme. Do we know what the mind control is? Is it fear? Is it charm? Is it just
He kind of looks at
total
you and he
takeover?
says, from my understanding, any aversion of the mind would be psionic in nature. Beyond this, an older word may be enchantment.
Again, I'm thinking of stillness of mind.
Mhm.
And we kind of limited that to charmed and frightened, didn't we?
Mm-hmm. But like charm effects are akin to like enchantment.
Mm.
But he's kind of he's kind of answering from like a non-religious kind of sciencey point of view. It's like their people's take on the rule set, as it were. Yeah. So Eltris, are you saying anything to this man?
Well, I know obviously Vanguard kind of said about the shapeshifting thing. I don't really have any shapeshifting thing though, do I? Like, I've got really nothing that would go undetected apart from the fact that.
Well, he's asked, can you shield your mind or your body? That's what he's asked, ultimately, right? Like, can you conceal either of them? Because obviously if you were going to wander around Barris, you'll probably stick out. All of you.
Yes.
Being
Well,
that none of you are elephants.
I don't want to answer it until I clarify, but I don't have anything though, do I? Like that would I don't have any sort of psychic thing or anything that would conceal body.
I feel like you'd
What's
know
your
that more
stealth
than
roll?
me, yeah.
What?
What's your stealth setting at?
Can you? So, can you think why I was thinking of you though?
I think I can.
You can disguise your form somewhat. Maybe not enough to look like an elephant, but you can look other than you are.
He means the armor.
Yeah, so in the sense that I would just look like myself but a rock thing.
I don't know what that would mean for them.
Suppose.
Mm.
Do you know? Well, we don't know yet whether or not if you touched Safim that something would be transferred along those lines, or is it just the natural world? That's between you and the GM to have that chat out here, isn't it?
I think it's also just between like Eltrus and whatever he feels his connection to being the Guardian is, right? Like, that's something that needs actively explored rather than just sat on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, to answer the previous question, my stealths are 1.
Just better than negative.
Sure is.
Yep.
My stealth sits at 4, along with my acrobatics and things like that.
Fleabite, what's your stealth sitting at?
A little more.
Such as? Give us a rough number between the exact number and the exact number.
So also considering if I fail, I could add 8, between 1 and 8, but as an exact number, it would be 11.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
Fleabite is a very stealthy boy.
The hilarious thing to me is that if I'd chosen to level up Warlock last instead of Rogue, I would be a lot sneakier.
Would that have given you the invocation? The
Yeah.
invocation? Yeah. It's such a good invocation as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so
So I suppose the question here then is, if 2 went into the city and 2 stayed out, would that be enough to achieve what we're trying to do?
well, here's my question as a GM to you, right, Chris? If something goes wrong on one side of the city, what side would you like to be on? And do you really want to split the party?
No, I don't want to split the party,
Okay.
but that's...
It's not to say that you can't. Don't read into that statement. I'm just merely asking, given what you've faced both in and outside, do you think halving your numbers would be wise?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I don't think any party at any time should have. So, yeah, it's not something I would do unless there was a...
I was just thinking Colin would hate the Monday game, wouldn't he? Oh god. We barely stay together as a team in the Monday game. Right, so I get your thinking, right? I do get your thinking. Eltrus and Fleabite have kind of yet to answer this dude though, so...
I think Eltrus would just going to say that I can't disguise my mind, but I can disguise my skin somewhat.
Yeah, I assume you're sitting in the armor. Like, would you have
Yeah.
walked up on this valley, like, after a long rest, traveling here?
No, probably not. I probably would be in it, yeah.
I was gonna say, I feel like after our long rest, you would have put it on, because it's been like, you
Yeah.
know, how many days has it been roughly? Does anybody remember how many days it's been since last time? Because obviously he missed all of the survivor rolls last time. It's been like at least another week, hasn't it? At least.
Yeah, I think
Usually.
it was like 4 or 5 berry days after we'd run out of food, so that was...
Yeah, and we had
like
3 food. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so let's say like it's been probably about like, I don't know, 8 or 10 days, give or take, like since the last time you were actually a player in the game, if that makes sense, Tom.
Yeah.
So it's been a while, so I assume you've just been reapplying the armor every time you've woke up.
Yeah, let's say yeah, because I've got it ticked on my sheet now from last time anyway, so I'll use that as a sign and say that it is.
Okay. So, given that this terrain is tree-like and grass-like, you're back to the original look of the armor.
Okay.
So you're not rock-like at all.
Cool.
Just to highlight that.
Okay.
Yeah. Just so you know, Keldrath, as well, if you want to during this like rest period, you can like redo your tattoo and pick something for your tattoo to be, because it only takes an hour, I believe, for the thing to be done. So you could have done that as well. You can let me know if you will do that or won't. There's no reason not to, because it can then just still live in the tattoo until you need it, but it would let you pick something, such as a hawk again or something else on the list.
Yeah. Oh.
Or like a seahorse, you could go explore that lake.
That's exactly what I was just thinking. I was just going to, while doodling away in my arm, and
How
I'll just
often can
cast
you use a
this and-
seahorse, right? Like,
Yeah. And suddenly a seahorse starts appearing in the water. Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing as you were saying that. So.
oh dear. Yeah, like, don't worry, I don't lose my roots as a player, I don't think, because it's the stuff that I'd want to do with these powers, right? It's like, I'd explore that. Okay, so, Fleabite and Elshis, what are you saying to him? What are your word things to his ear things?
Well, I just said to him that
can't-
I couldn't just,
You can't really conceal.
yeah, can't conceal my mind, but I can conceal my skin somewhat.
Okay, I mean, Fleabite?
Fleabite would probably like look to the top of his head and then down to his Sufim's head and then down to his feet and then back to the top of his head, back to the top of his feet, like very obviously implying he's very big, and then look at Fleabite and would just sort of Fleabite is good at not being seen. Fleabite try go by of not detected. But Fleabite can of some talk by mind think yes. Might help shield disguise.
I kind of just nods to that. Yeah, that was the other thing, yeah. And then he says, he looks you up and down, like just kind of almost repeating your motions once. And he says, you may be able to mask your vision. But alas, and he moves his trunk and kind of like waves it around you and like sniffs a couple of times. And then I'll paste in chat. Oh, well, maybe I'll paste in chat when I take GM mode off. Here is the implication. Luckily though, you don't smell too bad. Which is maybe a bad thing, because he's saying this when you don't smell too bad.
So
now you're saying this in a way that if Fleabite was in the city and he was moving around, nobody's going to be searching for him, but they might get a waft of a...
Put it this way, it means the stealth check is against smell, not against sight on Fleabite's part. Like,
Right.
It's unlikely that any of you would smell bad enough that smell would normally give you away, except a race that are really sensitive to smells. So, yeah, that's probably what you're up against more so than, you know...
Insight. Okay.
So
Yeah.
I would say yes, it might partially give some away, but if you were sensitive to smell and you smelled something that's really bad, there is a good chance that you're going to avoid that smell, is it not?
It really depends on Baru culture. How many good decisions did Lyuda make? Yep.
And we know that he is somewhat atypical of their culture.
100% atypical. Yep, and look at what this person's done. They've immediately identified you as the worst smelling person here, despite your bath, but possibly because of the bath as well. Like, you know, wet rat smell is maybe not great. Especially if it's dislodged half of the dirt that was once secure.
So I just need to smell so much worse that everyone just avoids that sector of the city.
I mean, the moving barrel. The awful smelling barrel, is it just shuffles? Okay. Yeah, well, he's as subtly as possible saying that you are quite noticeable. If not for your size, but for perhaps your smell. That is how he imparts this to you.
It appears we're at an impasse.
Yeah.
Could I ask? You do not allow access to outsiders into your city, so I will take it more or less for granted that you do not take any prisoners of any kind.
He gestures with his trunk over at the pile of bodies.
Correct. Yeah. But if you were trying to ingratiate yourself with the illicit, would they?
Oh, there's a physical reaction in his body language. And he turns his full body to face you and he says, "We are not ingratiating ourselves with the illicit. They have buried within. They are to be removed."
Yes. I understand that. This is not what I'm trying to say. If
You can see his shoulders relax a little when you say that.
if you were to pretend you had heard these people outside the city walls, they're coming to defeat the illicit, they know of a way to destroy you, I thought you would want to know and interrogate them. Would that allow us entry?
It would guarantee your deaths.
Okay.
And perhaps mine too. For you see, Keldrath, I am not outside the walls. And he just narrows his eyes and gives you a nod.
I understand. You have never been outside the walls.
If I were discovered outside the walls, perhaps it would be a different matter for my continued life.
Yeah, well, you must. That comes to it. I will say, I am inclined to agree that, well, I shouldn't like terribly to be handed over to a race of mind readers. The chances of bluffing our way out of that situation are not high.
Takes a deep breath and he says, "You are not the most easy to conceal. I do not believe I could risk you being discovered within the city." And he just nods and he stands up. Gets his mask off the side of his armor and attaches it back onto his face and he says, "I must return lest I be discovered missing. I wish you luck." He just looks to everybody.
Fleabite might just. I guess I would. Alexander's going to ask the DM first.
Okay.
Alvin was given the directions to Barris.
Mhm.
Was he given the directions into Barris, or was it to about where we are?
You have
That
no
sort of-
idea. Remember, it was a weird mind map he got, so you just
Yes.
knew the way to Barris, but if you got closer, you don't know where that would take you. Because there is no Alvin here, sadly. So maybe it would work where if you hold him up against the wall, he'll maybe, I don't know, know there's a better place to go. Who knows? But
There is scope for Fleabite to believe that he knew the way into the city, not to the city.
yeah, I think you can believe that, yeah.
Okay. Then I think Fleabite would say, You your city defense is not of as secret as you or your nest warren might of think. There was others that knew the way into and beyond your defense wall.
And where are these others now? Do they still live?
Some might have. One that I of knew does not.
Kind of nods to himself and goes, "It is unlikely anyone who has breached the walls of Barris that they'll yet live."
But of those that some know of way, and if your defense wall is not as in defense as you of think, perhaps people, or perhaps your kind would have changed decision on not allow those in or out.
He looks down at you with his like armoured face and then says, "These people that know the ways past our walls, why do they not test their knowledge? I have seen none of these people at the walls of Barris, nor past them."
Perhaps that is how they have made it through.
He kind of laughs and he says, "I do not think these people are within the walls of Barris as you believe."
So, if we can meta for a sec,
Mhm.
our player agencies,
Yeah.
it's also we're going to follow him a short distance behind, right?
100%.
100%, yeah.
Good.
There was no doubt about that. We're going to find at least a way to the walls.
Just
If
wanted to
nowhere
be
else.
sure.
Yeah, yeah.
It's also like just from like a kind of,
Certainly.
like from a in-universe terminology, like finding where Barris is now is a case of following that storm to where it's based, right? That is not going to be difficult for you guys.
It
Other
was
than
more
the
a case
twin.
of follow him.
Oh, I
at
got-
a safe enough distance to
Oh, no,
see where he
I'm not
goes
even
in
talking about your
without-
plan. I got like you were gonna fall in for that. I just mean in general, you guys would know it's not that difficult to like go, well, there is where you're likely to be heading. So if he does go anywhere else, that would be sus, right? If he
Yeah.
doesn't head towards the storm, that's weird. If he does, that makes sense because likely, much like Little Bellinor, the Illithid ship will be above the city, hence the storm around it. Okay. But yeah.
Yeah, Fleabite's comments were mostly just that he believes the city is mostly impregnable, but Fleabite knows others knew. or
Yeah, and
is
like
pretty
his
sure that
his
others knew
reply
away.
to you was like, if there are others that know, they clearly don't want to test their knowledge, so why would we worry about them? Like, right? Like that's
Mhm.
kind of like his reply is like, it doesn't matter if people know if they're not going to use that knowledge.
But also, how does he know if that's maybe how they get in?
Who knows? Maybe his job is the wall guy.
There's always smugglers and thieves in every
Yes,
And to be fair, there was a gnome that was in this party that gained the knowledge of the direction to Barris. He also died because the Gith killed him, and also mostly he killed himself. There were a lot of bad decisions made in that combat. Oh, Tink. Alvin, Tink. So many other names. Oh. So, this guy's clearly about to leave. Any other parting words? Because like Fleabite's words haven't convinced him to like change his position. If anything, it's just convinced him to like rush back more.
I'm basically going to say, be safe on your journey home,
Okay, nods.
but go slowly.
Go slowly and
Aye.
break many branches.
Take care.
Yeah, like he nods. He did also like obviously say he wished everybody luck anyway. So you can tell that he would like to have helped, but he's essentially risking his entire life on people that haven't really said how yous would be useful inside the walls, other than can you bring us the egg? So yeah, he kind of just nods, and then yeah, you hear some strange noises, and then he just flies straight up.
That's cruel.
I mean, you saw him fly earlier. You know he can fly.
Well,
As he's flying, can I think to him.
What a wonderful. No, yeah, please. Yeah.
Um,
Imagine you
And
freaked him
I-
out and he just like crashed into like a cliff.
I guess Fleabite would quickly just say, our of lives are of not great value to of you. What if we were of to fight your enemies? What have you to of lose?
You definitely say this as he's flying and not before he leaves the party.
It it was just sort of as it happened.
That's fine.
Like, if we want to just rewind things, I'm happy with that. But if
I
not,
would say
I'm also
that
happy.
having a conversation with people that can invade your mind, and then as he leaves, you invade his mind. I'd say there's a tone there.
Hmm.
Yeah, I would struggle for him to not kind of write you off at that point. Does that make sense? Why he's maybe feel that way? This is like a Ryan to Alexander conversation more than a, university Fleabite. Yeah. So I don't mind if you want to say this before he leaves. There was definitely scope to speak to him after he said everything he said. I would maybe suggest not doing it in his head. But it's entirely up to you if that's how you feel it would have went. I don't mind you keeping it as it played out.
No, it was something that I wanted to say to him before he was gone, and I just didn't think you'd hear me. But I knew as long as I could see him, I could get the message. So if there's scope for it to have happened before,
Yeah.
that was the only way to get the message to him.
Before he zooms away. Yeah. You can just say you can finish that on the back of his off the back of your conversation with him.
Mm.
And he said good luck to everybody. His reply to you then about you saying like, the gist of your message being maybe we could fight your enemies? Was that the gist of it essentially?
Mainly that we are expendable.
Mm-hmm. And you're saying that out loud. Obviously everybody else feels super comfortable with Fleabite offering up everybody's life.
Yeah, that's why I didn't hate that it was.
Yeah,
such.
I bet.
But no, it's
I think his reply to you would be something akin to, "You do not know me, and you are willing to throw your life away and offer up the lives of your companions. I do not think you have thought this through. I appreciate the sentiment, but again, you ask that I risk my life for you."
as of the, and he struggles to pronounce Illithid, of give you choice.
For now, my mind is free of their influence. I wish to get done everything I can before it is too late for you and I. They may simply find what they wish and move on. They may take over all of Barris. I cannot say what their agenda is.
So tempted just to go straight into his mind right now. But I think that would be needlessly antagonistic.
As I said, a guy that's a bit para about mind-dominating, squid-faced horrors from beyond. And then you've got somebody who's also not from here invading his mind. Like, there's really more suspicion due to Fleabite than he gets, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Takes off his rat costume and it's a tiny Illithid.
But I think that is balanced by the underestimation that is perhaps given in Julie.
Like, I mean, this guy doesn't know these are all main characters in an RP, right?
He really should, but yeah.
Right?
I mean, look at us.
Yeah, like, you're you're an ensemble group of varying races.
None of us have pink hair is the problem.
think that maybe is the problem. Yeah. I feel like
I choose Keldra.
Yeah. Just a pink mohawk,
Mm-hmm.
red scales, pink mohawk, blue dragon breath. Hell yeah. Just 80s up. That guy. Yeah, he's about to fly away. By the way, that scene's going to play out exactly as it did before, unless somebody has anything like particularly convincing. But to summarise, his main issue is, you all look like you'll attract too much attention.
Which is fair.
Like, obviously, he knows that, like, Keldrath seems to be, lithe enough and sneaky enough. Obviously, you've got Vanger, who he has seen turn into, as he called it, a paka, or a cat. But yeah, the rat is small but smelly, and then Eltrys is quite large.
And a tree.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only other thought, and again away from game, this would be more us just chatting. If Vanger changed into a cat just now and went with Safim,
What makes you think he would do that?
no, I'm just, as I said, I'm just firing this through. I'm just thinking this through, and then you try to make your way back out as a cat. Would that allow us to find a way in? Again, splitting the
I mean,
party.
sure it would, but
But would you do that
would he
as
do
a
that?
character?
Would Vanger ask him? And finally, would I be able to do it in? Actually, never mind. We had a short rest. I wouldn't be able to do it full stop.
You need another long rest.
Yeah.
Okay.
If he's willing to wait wait another night outside for the sake of it, which I don't think. Yeah, I'm afraid that I don't think that's a goal.
Yeah, like you'll probably need like at least 7 more hours of rest, before you can justify that. As I said, it's a bit of a stretch saying you've had an hour at the moment. But yeah, like you have only had the equivalent of like a short rest at this particular juncture.
I mean, do we follow immediately, or do we maybe take a rest now?
I suppose the only
I was
downside would
thinking we
be
might
like
rest close to the city, but not too close. So.
I'm thinking that it doesn't make any difference. We can't fly.
Well, why
But
don't
we're
we
still
have
gonna
this
have to-
conversation? Because I was waiting for like a good opportune moment for a break, but we're now an hour past the break, so I think we'll just have the break now. So we'll take a wee 10-minute break here, folks, and we'll come back soon. Hello, and welcome to the Invasion Session 7-1 Part 2. I am Ryan, the GM. Hopefully the audio works and the stream still works and all that nonsense still works. We'll find it.
Sounding alright.
Ooh. Yeah.
I've got no video though.
That's a worry.
I do, so that
just
seems to
refreshing.
be-
Yep. Okay, we're back. Yeah.
Good. Hello.
Working for me also.
Excellent. It's the 3rd of November 2021. I'm Brian, the GM. Here are the players who remain.
Hello, I'm Tom, who remains. Also, I've just been notified that the stream came back on as soon as I coughed, so I apologise for that. Oh, there's another one. And tonight I'll be
Also,
playing...
hello, Heather.
Could you guess? Oh, I've lost my train of thought.
You're
Tonight I'll
doing
be
intro, yeah.
playing Eldris, the barbarian. And it's a pleasure to be here for part 2.
Is that in Coffer where you have all your money? I think.
Touché, because I'm so rich.
Evidently. Is that a Richmond cough you've got?
Yeah.
Right, Keldrath.
Evening all. My name's Chris, and tonight I'm playing Keldrath, and I am very lost in this scene at the moment.
Good.
Good evening, all. My name is Colin. No, I'm not. No, can I try that any longer? Hello. Yeah, I'm Colin. I'll be playing Vanger. He is cleric-y, witty guy.
Yeah. I'm just thinking there. Out of all the animated maps I've seen, this is one of the only ones I'd actually quite like the water to have been animated on the waterfall and like maybe the rippling around it. That'd have been nice.
Sure, but it doesn't need it. It's cozy enough as is. It's a nice map. I like it.
Yeah, me too. It's kind of why I've left it up as well. Instead of going back to the intro screen and stuff, I was like, that's kind of just a nice map to look at. In fact, I'll just leave our characters here now. This is now the campaign. Just this area. Fortify it. So yes, I assume... I suppose this is a speak now or forever hold your peace type moment of... Do you want anything else to have been said before he zooms off? Or are you happy to part on those words? As I said, Fleabite's last ditch attempt at essentially saying, what if your walls are already breached? Maybe we could help. Sadly, it wasn't to be.
Yeah, it was. I don't know that there's anything that we're going to say, quite understandably, that is going to convince him, given his situation, and also given the sort of general outlook of his people. It's a big ask. We have no guarantee, not even really a specific plan. I don't know that in his shoes I would be very easily convinced either, and I don't really know.
And like, as much as I wouldn't mind things coming down to a persuasion roll, I feel like there needs to be foundation for the roll to exist. And if you can provide that, I don't mind it being a persuade roll or not, but ultimately it would need foundation, which hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. I don't know. If others differ, then go for it, but I don't think... Yeah.
I'm under the impression that as much as, or as little as we know about Barris, he's no different from anybody else from Barris. They don't want anybody else in there. So that persuasion roll is going to have to be almost maxed out to make it happen. So we have to accept it and we have to find another way in it, as far as I'm concerned at the moment.
Yeah. Altris?
I'm the same. I don't think there's any other option really.
Like if you were a city of isolationist elephant people, and you also happen to have one of the people that were wandering outside the wall, clearly happy for people to offer help, but unable to help that help, how would you go about it?
I do not know.
Me neither. It was a really weird way of phrasing it as well.
Yeah.
Ultimately, for me, it comes down to how badly does he want rid of the Illithid? You know
Well,
what I mean?
I think it's I
He's
don't even
willing
know
to
if
sell
it,
his soul for that.
I think it's not so much that, it's just you haven't convinced him you are worth it. Right? I think that's the issue. It's not like, I think he is very openly wanting rid of the Illithid. It's just, he's not going to die for you people yet, because you didn't give him a reason to trust you guys. You know? Like, your competence is in question. Put it that way.
There's I mean, like, there's nothing that we've really offered to show that we can get it done.
Yeah, and that's his worry, because if he just, like, for example, if he let you guys in, and he's just, like, immediately killed, because it's, like, you know, betrays their core belief of no outsiders. It's not something he's going to happily do. Unless you were, like, if you all turned up, like, you know, Kal-El, you know, and all Superman your way in, laser-eyed everything, and then said, we're here to help. I'd be like, you know what? Kind of see it, you know? But
And who knows, if we make our way into the city and we get into the city, he may be there waiting for us to offer assistance then.
yeah, like that would probably be quite impressive if he's made it inside the city, without his help, right?
Yeah.
Might even
the way he's putting it anyway, yes.
Obviously Fleabite tried to give the impression that Fleabite's like, well, yeah, it seems like everybody can get into, or like some people can get in and out of the city regardless of how secure you think it is. But obviously his take on that was, well, we haven't seen evidence of that, so we don't need to worry about that until we do. Which means if there are people that can get in and out, they're clearly not doing anything that's noticeably being sabotaged over the years. Otherwise, they'd have noticed. Because you probably are quite good at quantifying every inch of a walled-off city, since you've got finite space to deal with. Yeah.
But to repeat what I said earlier, every city in every world has smugglers of some sort.
Well, I mean, that can definitely be a belief, yeah. As I said, the only downside is a lot of the smugglers may or may not believe this place is real. This is the kind of mythical city that is quite clearly quantified by the fact that Fleabite has now met 2 Uru. Yeah. So anyway, like, I think with that, like, I think Safim flies off, flies up for a bit, clears obviously the cliffs that are around you, clearly flies up further, clears the tree line, and then zooms off in the direction that you would probably guess, near the storm, as opposed to away from the storm.
Down to the base.
What I'll do is I'll put us back on the credit screen, just since that map is no longer relevant. Other than the user's still there.
I feel like I've just lost another home.
I think, since there's obviously no chance of us actually following, we know the direction he's going in anyway, and wouldn't it perhaps behoove us to have another look around, maybe check inside the cave, see if the body's carrying anything useful, etc.?
The other thing we have to consider is yourself. Do you want to do a full 8 hours rest to get that spell back?
I do eventually, but I don't know that I want to do it right now. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
certainly I'm not going to be turning into a cat right now.
Because
so
it'd be different if Vanger was like a full druid and he could just shape into a bird and chase after him, right? It'd be different then, but obviously.
I have 2 levels.
Right, so what's Keldrath and Eltris, what are your plans? If Vanger wants to do a wee investigate, what's everybody else up to?
I think that obviously the best kind of protocol is to continue onwards, but obviously after the investigation and stuff, you know what I mean? Like, obviously happy to stick around while Vanguard does that, obviously, and then after that, head towards the
city.
Stormy Point.
Okay, Keldrath?
From earlier's role, looking to restock our food, would you say we found enough for the meal alone, or will it give us any extras?
But enough for the meal alone. Yeah, I would say that
Right,
much.
I'd like to do another survival then, and
try and like pack
see if we can
essentially
get
some
any extra.
supplies.
Yeah, because
Okay.
we've nothing left. We're down to
Good berries.
eating the good berries exactly. So
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Right. So Vanguard give me investigate and Keldrath give me survival.
I will give you that investigate roll. It's not good, right? It's
Sorry,
good.
it's not, but that's okay. We'll see how the survival goes. Okay. Yeah. I will say that you can get 3 more days worth of like feeding the group. Right.
So yeah, everybody gets 3 sets of rations.
Basically, 3 days. You can feed every day for 3 days. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not that everybody gets rations, if that makes sense. It's just you can now feed people for 3 days without the stuff spoiling.
Okay.
Yeah. So if they lose you, they lose their 3 days food, which is at least nice to know you're valuable.
I am the chef.
Yeah, that's it. And Vanguard, as I think is obvious, like you don't necessarily get much more from the scene, as it were. If you go like behind the waterfall, it's a fairly shallow, hollow out cave. You know, not deep at all. For example, if you like try to sleep there on the ledge, as it were, you'd probably get soaked eventually, just with the spray from the waterfall. So yeah, it's not really somewhere you could hide. Maybe perhaps why the scout was shot down.
Yeah. They're worth checking.
No, definitely. Yep, definitely. Yeah. Are you going to rest here or are you going to move on? Because I think Eltris is eager to move on.
A nice spot if you want to rest here. I'm down for it.
That's why I asked earlier. We have the campfire. We're already set up. We could take the rest to allow you to get your stuff back and then move on. I don't have any reason to stay. I don't have any reason to move on. It's down to yourself, Anger.
Well, since we can't follow him directly anyway, we might as well rest now while we're knowing that we're in a relatively safe space because he has cleared it out recently.
Yeah, I think the only thing to consider is Gith clearly came from somewhere. That's obviously a given, right? He's obviously cleared them out. He did give the impression that he, air quote, isn't outside the walls, wink wink. So it's unlikely you're going to meet any other Baru wandering around outside the city. So you don't really need to worry about them. It seemed like he was just here and happened to wipe them out. Whether or not there are other Gith, who can say? But yeah, I wouldn't say it was super safe feeling, but it's not like this is probably as safe as it's going to get, right? Because any noise that would have happened here would have attracted more if they were close by.
My only thinking is it may be up in the cliff ledge just within the tree line there. Might not be a bad place because, you know, if you're sort of within the tree line a little bit back from the lip, you are sort of far enough that maybe your fire isn't going to be too visible from down below. But also sort of close enough that you can kind of keep an eye on anything that's coming up from that direction.
Yeah, he's going to camp up.
Yeah, it's a good vantage point.
Okay. So resting here then? Yeah. I'll assume it's a long rest.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay. Normal watch order, I guess.
What's the normal order?
Well, Keldrath goes last. Yeah.
Yes. Other than that,
Fleabite,
which is such a bad idea, and yet we always do it.
Fleabite is second last. I think Eltris is normally first. I think you're second. Isn't that the normal order?
I need to go fly. Fly's a bad idea. Myself last.
Banger.
What?
Kara's asking why it's a bad idea he goes last.
No, sorry, I misspoke.
Ah,
I was referring to. Yeah, I was confused.
okay.
That's okay. Just,
No,
again,
you traditionally go last and then sort of cook in the morning kind of thing.
yeah, that's the way I was looking at it. Just
No,
I'll
I
do
don't,
the-
I don't know what I was talking about there.
Okay. That's fine. So
I
long
think
as
I was
we're...
thinking of the fact that we always seem to have a problem when Eltris is not Keldra. I think I was thinking probably about the constant issues of Eltris.
Well, he
being-
normally takes first watch. That's the... like...
just a bad roll.
Yeah, I think I had it back to front.
Okay. Okay. And you're welcome to take first watch if you want.
I'm happy to take any watch.
Yeah. Right. Can all of you, except obviously Fleabite, since apparently he's just going to snooze through the whole thing, give me a perception check for each of your watches.
Here's where mine goes bad. Oh wait. Sorry, I don't know why I had advantage on. Sorry.
It's okay. 24 is still good. Yeah. So, 7 additional hours pass. These have been fed already. Yeah, like very little other than just maybe it's kind of nice to hear wildlife again, right? Don't know if that is a comfort to anyone, but given some of the zones, shall we say, that you have been in the last few times, not being the most comfy or healthy towards wildlife and normal kind of like foresty, jungly noises. But ultimately the watch goes without incident. Like as I said, off in the distance you can still see and hear the storm. You probably, like every so often, hear like the cracks of thunder. It is probably only like a day, maybe 2 away. Ultimately, you all wake up rested.
Excellent.
Okay. Cool. Change the thing to reflect this.
Yeah.
I shall do my hours worth of preparations, and we can all have a cookie each.
While Keldrath's doing his hour worth of preparations, I'll do my hour worth of rituals.
Keldrath, you're going to spend another hour doing your bird tattoo.
Yes.
'Kay.
I was considering not doing it, but I'm going to.
There's kind of
the
no
only
reason not to, other than saving the hour. But like you could have done it on your watch. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah, exactly. Yes, yes, I will call up my.
is it a hawk you're going to go for again? Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to
Yeah.
go with a hawk. Yeah.
Nice. It's kind of convenient that your other like ability, your other kind of tattoo is like infinite ink, isn't it? That you can kind of keep doodling on your arm.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
kind of nice. Weirdly, it's not even why I suggested that as your other like item to have. It was purely because you said you were a scribe.
Yeah.
It does just neatly tie itself together. But yeah, so you've re-upped your familiar. And yeah, any morning banter at all?
I think I'll say to both guys, I think moving forward we have to be a bit more stealthier than we've been. I don't know how that will translate into game movement, but we know that the Baru don't want us there. we don't know what defenses they've got, so I just think being a little bit more careful.
Well, I do agree we should be watchful. I think we have a pretty strong indication that they don't have too much of a presence outside their city walls.
Yeah, it's reasonably confident. Like, yeah, they don't seem to care.
We're
Fair point.
well enough clear of their walls. I think we're fairly safe once we get closer. Obviously, it's a different story, but for the time being, for the time being, I think we're all right. If we are headed final leg for perhaps we best consider what our options are. We, of course, assess the situation once we actually approach the place, but we have any tricks up our sleeve that we haven't put to use yet, anything we may be able to turn to our advantage.
I think our only hope is that our friend Fleabite has some trick, some knowledge.
And like, he does know everything
That'll
Fleabite can
help
do,
us
right?
get
Roughly. He's roughly seen especially like Vanguard, has seen a lot of Fleabite's abilities. Whether or not you can remember them is a different story. But yeah. Like, he is himself quite stealthy, but he doesn't necessarily have the ability to impart that stealth on other people. It's just a shame we don't have Cass. It's a shame Cass isn't here with the invisibility.
Out of character, I think there's definitely a good spot that we could perhaps gain some sort of information